Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I will be doing my SuperCoach sort of tips and tricks and how I sort of ended up getting that 90th overall, and why I sort of, in the end, if you look at sort of I think my trade plan, you'll see the easiest way in which I sort of got the ranking. So hopefully next year we'll see whether I'm actually recording content for YouTube, but at least I'll be on like Twitter going through my trades and stuff like that on that. So I'll at least be playing SuperCoach and giving you some tips on Twitter. But anyway, just before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So first of all, the main tip for me is, and I've said this I'm pretty sure countless times, if you look at the side here, you'll see one batter, and then short bowls, Maxwell bowls, Walter bowls, or Walter didn't bowl in the last game because he didn't play in the last round, but you had Lawrence who also bowls somewhat. Jordan, bowler, and Hales was a batter on the double. If you look at that, and you'll see that countless times, if we go through my actual starting team, you'll see Tom Curran, bowler. Munro was on a triple as a batter, so that was sort of understandable as a when I get to my point. Maxwell as a bowler. Philippi was a keeper, but he was just extreme value at that point. And then you had Cooper Conley, who was a bowler as well as a batter. So, and then you had Fraser McGurk as well, just a batter, but he was on the bench as a rookie. And then you had Darcy Short, who ended up not playing, I don't think, in that first round, but he was a batter who was just rookie priced. And then you obviously had the bowlers and then more bowlers. And you can see with my trades, I think, yeah, here are my trades. Traded out a batter in Munro, a keeper batter in Billings, and then also traded out Nessa just because I didn't like his role necessarily. It was more of he batting 7 and 2 overs at that point. And you can see Philippi flipped immediately to the wicketkeeper line to get rid of a batter. And then you had Michael Nisa still in the side because there was some conundrum there. I forgot what happened in that. Was this the Tom Curran getting suspended already in round 2? I don't remember, but he seems to not be in my side. So maybe, that's what happened. Yeah, Tom Curran got suspended or something like that at this point. And so I got out of him quickly and put Nessa back in, and that didn't work in the end because Fraser McGurk went 90. But anyway, so yeah, Nessa back into the side, who was a bowler and a batter, but I didn't like his role necessarily at that point. Then you had another bowler in Sutherland still there, bowler, and then Darcy Short on the double, who was just a batter, but like I said with Hales, was a batter on the double, and I was happy at that point in the season because I didn't have enough cash to have solely bowling all-rounders in the batters' spots. Then we go to round 3, and you'll see very, very similar case. We got, well, this was one of my failed trades of the year, was Jason Sanger, actually, if we just highlight that, and Quinton Cox. So if you look at that, you're probably thinking, what was I, and this was one of my bad rounds, I'm pretty sure, yeah, really, really poor round. And this sort of gets down to my first point, is basically, you can almost exclusively basically pick all bowlers, and if you can, in the batter slots, because if you do that, if you look at the, and I've said this countless times, if we look at the averages, and then we go here, you'll see average. You'll see Matt Short's a bowler, Glenn Maxwell a bowler, Carey played 1 game, Hussain played 1 game, so you can disregard those 2 as it's just a sort of variation or whatever, standard deviation would bring them back towards, I would say Carey would be brought back towards that 45 or so. Hussain is bowler and can sort of bat, but he would be brought back to, I would think, averaging around that 55 or so. Then you have another bowler in Overton, Bartlett bowler. Chris Lynn is the outlier in this, and we'll get to that in a second once I get down to the top 25 or so. Walter, another bowler. Hardy bowls as well. Dan Lawrence as well, bats, but he bowls as well. So that again sort of showing my point. Nessa bowler, Zaman Khan another bowler, Webster bowls and bats as well, which is one of the best attributes for SuperCoach. Daniel Sams another bowler, Berendorf another bowler, Sean Marsh as well, 5 games for 54, And Jimmy Pearson, 1 game, you can disregard that sort of outlier as well. Fergus O'Neill, 2 games for 52 average, but he's a bowler. Daxton Bird, another bowler. Matty Wade, 6 games, 51 for batter, but he also keeps as well. So you see that the wicket keepers as well doing a little bit better. Lance Morris, bowler. Chris Jordan, bowler. Nathan Coulter, Harris Ralph. Max Bryant as well, but he only played 2 games, so another outlier. Daniel Hughes. So you can see there, I just named the top 25 or so guys this year, and yes, we had about 5 guys with 2 or less games, mostly actually batters. But if you look at that, I think what was it? We've got, in terms of players that have played 3 or more games that are batters in the top 25. Let me just discount 1, 2, 3. We're discounting 5 guys. So it is the top 20 of SuperCoach averages for the BBL, and we have one and then 2. You get 2 guys, and then Matthew Wade is a keeper. So you get 2 batters only in the top 20 of the SuperCoach averages. And then if you go back to past seasons, and you will see something very awfully similar with this. Steve Smith, outlier, 4 games, but still very outlier in a 14-game season. Richardson, bowler, short bowler. Mac Wright, 1 game outlier there. Lance Morris, another bowler. Paddy Dooley, another bowler. David Payne. Sean Abbott, another bowler. Same thing. Nathan McSweeney, 3 games, almost an outlier at that point because it was a 14-game season. But he was a batter. I think he did bowl in that year, I want to say he bowled a little bit in that year. If we look here, did he bowl in that year? Doesn't look like he actually bowled in that year, but 178, he just had 1 good inning, basically. Dwarsh's bowler, Inglis, a wicketkeeper, then a bowlers, and then Chris Lynn at 20. So you see there, what was that? Probably 2 batsmen in the top 20 or so, and then you go even further down. Murphy, Baisley did most of his work with the ball. I'm getting down in towards Tim David, the next batter, basically, but he did a lot of bowling, I'm pretty sure, in 22, 23. If we look down here, bowling-wise, he had 21 dot balls and 1 wicket as well, so he did a little bit with the ball as well, so he wasn't exclusively a batter. Will Sutherland was a bowler as well. Cam Bancroft in 22-23 was a wicketkeeper, but wicketkeepers average about 5 more than the actual straight batters, so they're a little bit more value. Chris Green, bowler, and then Colin Munro is, after I think it was Chris Lynn, the first batter outside of Chris Lynn is 31st. So that, I think, just proves my massive point here that I've gone almost 8 minutes on, is that batters are not valuable in this current scoring model for SuperCoach. We've seen it for since they changed it, and I think in 2019, even looking back the year before that, you can see obviously Ben McDermott just had a crazy year that year, averaging 73 as a wicketkeeper batsman. You have Boyce, Mitch Marsh as well, I think did a lot with the ball. But if we go back to 21-22, 6 games for 106 average, he took 5 wickets with the ball. So he was a batter bowler as well. Bartlett, Abbott, Kelly, Matt Short was bowling, Richardson, Maxwell, Thornton. You can just see Jason Sanger was an outlier as well with the bat, but I think he did a little bit with the ball as well that year. Was it? Or did we go through this and he didn't do anything with the ball? Yeah, took 3 wickets. So even he was bowling. Marnus was bowling as well. Steckity. Philippi had one of those crazy years, but he was also keeping as well, which helped a lot. O'Keefe, Rogers, Agar was bowling. Dwarshis, Hayden Kerr was bowling. Ty Ellis, Clark as well down here as a keeper. So you see no basically batter onlys until 28, which is crazy. In Munro again. So Munro, Hales, and Lynn are sort of the outliers to that to that point of bowlers only. And I think something that I've worked through is that out of the 26 trades that I used 4 on batters only, and one of them was Sanger, stuff up there. One of them was De Kock. That was another sort of just covering off the crowd because everyone was so into him. So I wanted to cover that off, and that worked. Not the greatest. Then another one was Hales, and that was just because he was like 80k, 90k. And then I think another one was I brought in Inglis as well, but he was a keeper, so it doesn't really fit that mold as much. but still he wasn't played as much on field because I didn't have the confidence in him compared to even a Chris Jordan who had a bad game here. I think he went 1 for 32 in this game here. Let me actually check his what he did fantasy-wise in that last game. No, looking at the wrong year. Let's look at this one. Fantasy scores. He put 1 wicket, 7 dot balls, 5 economy rate bonus, and 8 with the bat. So he scored 8, took 1 for, I think, 32 or something. I'll look this up quickly. And he still got a 40. Whereas a 40 for a batsman is like a 25 off like 18 or something like that. So if we go to All Series, BBL, and then go to fixtures down here, where is the last Hobart fixture? Here we go. And then we look at here, yeah, he finished 4 overs, 1 for 31, took 1 wicket, as we said, 7 dot balls, 5 economy rate bonus, and added 8 off, 4 with the bat, and that got him to a 40. And a 40 for a batter, if we go that they scored 25 with the bat, would be a 140 strike rate, a 140 to a 149 strike rate, and that is a 25 off 17 or a 25 off 17 with the bat gets you the same points as what Jordan did. So that just shows you how badly scaled or something it is. It's hard to sort of say how they could improve. I think 4s and 6s would help, but that would also help massively the all-rounders, but all-rounders should be the most valuable as they do all assets of the game. So I reckon that 4s and 6s getting counted like they were previously would be the best way for that to get fixed up. The next tip I have, and there are not many tips this for SuperCoach this year, and I think the main tip I'd have is, if we go back to my trade plan evolution, I sort of plan for this, is doing something like this, and knowing when the doubles are, because I've heard some people say that they plan in like 3-week blocks, and I understand that, but I think the biggest point I'd have for that is that, where is it? There was someone here that you sort of don't plan for it all, and then you get hit by something. Let's just take, I think it's something like this. So if you take this, or you take, if you do something like this, and you say, yeah, I'm only focusing on these 3 weeks. If you think about that, you'd be like, yeah, I want to load up on 5, maybe 6 stars players because they have a double here and a double here. But then you forget about this bye week here. And so that's why I don't like to say I want to exclusively look in 3-week blocks, because I think if you use that strategy here, you top up with too many stars plays, and then you get hit with a bye, and then you're not able to access these 2 huge rounds. And I think this was when I made my run towards the top 100, was these 3 rounds here. I went biggest score, and another. This was actually a poor round. I think I actually dropped down a couple ranks with this round, but I held together, and then I went and accessed round 9 pretty well. But the biggest tip for me is just knowing when the teams are on the double, because you might trade out players when they've got doubles coming up in the future. I think something happened with me, not necessarily with me, but I think a lot of people would have traded out a lot of their I think Overton was traded out a lot in this round 3, when if you didn't trade him out and you held him, you could have almost held him for this whole time, and he did really well in the end, if I remember correctly. Basically every week he averaged 70 across the whole comp, and I think he was one of the biggest misses for people. But if we look at that, you can see 2 then had the bye, and then went 89, 26, 72, 1, 2, 3, 45, and 83. So pretty much was a best sort of 8 or so on field for anyone aside from this sort of 26. But even a 26 as a bad game was still very, very valuable, because you had guys, especially in the last round I saw, with a 0, a 4, a -1, etc. Like Ty, who went 140, went 0. Hatcher on the double went -1 in total, and then you had McAndrew, who I got stuck with, who went 4. So I think that Overton was very, very one of the most pivotal players in the SuperCoach season. But I think the biggest tip for coming from me was just creating this table and knowing when to pick players, like knowing when. A lot of people would have just had maybe even 0 Hobart players, or they probably had Chowdhury as well, who I missed throughout this whole season. And then they might have even traded him out because he created so much value. And then round 7, you're like, okay, how am I going to get or how am I going to get the Perth players? You would have probably gotten the Perth players in round 6, and then had the Adelaide players, and then had to dump them for the Heat and Hurricanes. So I think a lot of people were found out, and I think maybe they got a little bit lucky with the weather, but I think a lot of teams got found out because they didn't have enough of the double players. Like I think in round 7 I had 10 double players or 9 double players, so I only had to have 2 non-double scores, which one of them I think was even, no, I think I used Inglis as the keeper slot to get rid of that sort of, because keepers only score so much, and I could have the all-rounders and the bowlers as the non-doubles. But I think that is one of the biggest tips for me. Tip number 2 is just planning out your trades. You can see here how I sort of planned out my trades and knew roughly, you can see here, this was the plan going into it, and you can sort of see how it sort of evolved, and I think I did change this a lot, but you can sort of see, yeah, I want to cash cow maybe in here, but I don't think there was need for that. Honestly, with how valuable the bench was with Darcy Short, Ben McDermott, you had Chowdhury there as well. You had Tanveer Sanger on the bench for a lot of people. You had I took a shot with Ben Menenti, and he's just Cam Boyce. Wow, he turned out to be he came in and was almost player of the tournament after about round 4. But yeah, so you can see sort of how much value there was on the bench, which didn't mean that we needed to cash cow. And then you could sort of see how I planned my trade boosts here. And I think doing something like this as well can really, really help people out in just knowing where your players are. Not necessarily knowing by name who you're going to pick up, because obviously that can change throughout the season. But knowing, yeah, I want 4 guys or something like that, or I want to be able to get up to 4. So look at this on the double. I had, 4, 8. I think I had in the end 12 guys on the double, it looks like here, out of the 16. So I had 12 guys on the double, which one of them was on the bench. I think it might have been, who was on the bench in round 1? Just looking at, it was it Fraser McGurk on the bench for me in round 1 that had the double? Yeah, Fraser McGurk was on the bench for me in round 1. So I had 12 guys on the double. Then I had 4. I will always try and plan to get 4, as you can see here. 4, 8, 4, 5, 8, and then 11. 10. I tried to get, I think I ended up with 9 in round 7 as I tried to fix something up. And then round 8 on the 0, with everyone playing, it was kind of hard to do stuff, especially being locked out, given the cruise. But yeah, I think that was one of my worst rounds, just not knowing who to pick. And then round 9, I went a little bit too heavy on the Thunder players and got found out there with, I think, 5 guys, Thunder players. But you can sort of see how it develops. You can see how I went here and went 5 strikers instead of 4, I believe. And then I sort of kept on checking them off and didn't actually copy and paste it down. And then you can sort of see me trying to add notes as well as I went along, trying to, was I going to anti-pod short or something like that to get cash? But I think that was sort of around round 5. And then by the time round 7 came around, I realized I've got too much team value that I don't need to get rid of Matt Short. I could just go for that. And that's why I went for the Alex Hales pick, was because if I went Alex Hales, I could keep Matt Short, which was in the end probably one of the better decisions. So that's probably my tip 2, is just pre-planning everything so that you know what you want to do basically, because if you know what you want to do, you can make these trades very, very quickly, and you don't have to overthink everything. Because I think the best time I actually played was when I went, yeah, I want these 3 players. I know that I want them because of their double coming up. I'm going to get them, and I spent probably 2 minutes on those trades, and I think I was about 500 rank when that happened or something, or it was either my 500 rank round when I finished, was that rank there, or 200 rank round, and I basically halved my rank because I just went quickly and didn't overthink it, and got Jordan, Bartlett, and Kuhneman. Kuhneman was a miss, but he still ended up getting like 50 or so for the round. But I captained Bartlett as well for his 150 odd, and Jordan in the end made like 170 for their double. I think it was it this round here? Yeah, it was this round here where I got massively overperformed in that round just because I went quickly with my trades, because I knew who I wanted, because I wanted the bowling all-rounders basically, or the bowlers that were doing well. And then the third tip I'd say is just being mindful of using your looping strategy. You can see how it worked so well for me in the last part of the season. It failed a little bit with Stoinis, but I was always gonna stay safe and take a 69 over going for it with Hardy, which in the end burned me 50 points because Hardy went, I think, like 115 or something like that, and then Stoinis, you can see here, only a 69. But I think that would still be, just go safe there, 70, as Hardy. If we look at Hardy's scores, if we go here, Hardy, we'll see that he only hit, I think, he actually hit above the 69, 5 rounds out of the 5 out of the 7 rounds he hit above the 69. So it probably negates my point here a little bit, given Hardy. But I think you're always going to take a 69, given what did Hardy average for the year? He averaged 60 for the year. So he didn't even average above the, because you have here you have 3 double scores here for Hardy as well. You got 6 and, what have you got? Was it 6 and 7? So the 2 rounds he actually didn't score the best were double rounds, which is quite weird. But you can see here with Hardy, he just didn't average. He averaged 60 for the tournament, and that 115 round 9 would bump that up from about a 55 to a 60. So were you going to take a guy who's averaging 55 over a guy who's got 69 points? I'm going to take the 69 points and lock that in. So in the end, I ended up burning, 46 points doing that. But I think over the long run, if you were to do this, play that game out countless times, the Hardy game, in round 9, I think you'd find that he wouldn't score 69 consistently. It'd be very 50-50, and I'd rather just lock in the 69 points there rather than, and I wish Stoinis had made 70-80 to make it a little bit better, but I'd rather lock that in. And that is one of the third point here. It's just using your emergencies well. You see Lawrence here, Stoinis and McDermott will all use, obviously the Harper sort of stuffed it up that he was playing second, which he was playing fourth, but I used emergencies a lot in this year. I think I ended up using, across the 9 rounds, probably somewhere close to about 6 or so emergency scores. And using them with also having, and this is why you don't want to necessarily get rid of all of your, like even here you see, I was planning on having 0 heat players. I ended up actually having 2 heat players, and I don't know who I actually had off. I think it was probably Scorchers. I only had like 2 Scorchers. 2 Scorchers. So that's what it was. I traded out the Scorchers guys for the, Sixers guys I traded out as well. This is very, very messed up, but you can see how the plan changed. But it's just holding these guys on their bye rounds, because their score is they're maneuverable until the lockout of the last game, whatever. You can maneuver them around and take those scores. Like I traded out initially Bartlett and also Walter, but then I traded them back in once I saw Dan Lawrence score a 120, which was like the 3rd highest score of the round, and then I traded them back. I traded in Bartlett again to get the Stoinis score. So I used those guys and I also used them for captaincy's sake as well. I traded in a dead pick in Harper as well for captaincy's sake. But using the players that are on buys or not actually playing to get captaincies or get loopholes is a lot better, because you can just use them a lot more. You basically get 2 stabs at it, and that is the main point there. So if you, I know I went 23 minutes in this video, but basically the main 3 points I have, which will help you guys next year, is one, to pre-plan your sort of, one is actually the number 1 point that I talked about for 10 minutes is go bowlers. They are a lot safer. They statistically over the last 3 seasons have outscored batters. I think Diabolical did a thing, and it was 8 or 10 points this year. And even that, it was actually a really good year for the batters in terms of we score a lot of 200 scores here. If we go back to BBL matches here, you'll see 187, 180, 201, 197, 141, only 1 down. The round 8, you saw 160 scored a couple times. And then round 7, you saw, 191, 160s scored quite a lot. The round 6 as well, you saw a 1 for 154 chase and a 211 scored as well. Even down here as well, 205 to 211. And then also round 4 as well. You know, you saw a lot of 170 scores this year, and 200 scores in general as well. 180s against each other, 170s against each other. Round 2 as well, chase down 200, another 170, one down, 160s as well. So just looking at these numbers, and you can see that the bowlers had a tougher year. 214 scored as well, and then 150s, 160s. But you can just see how the batters had a better year this year, and they still went down by 8 points to the bowlers and the fielding sides. So it just shows that the fielding and the bowlers are a lot more valuable than the batters. I think taking out fielding, I think it was an 8-point margin, 54 to 46, I want to say. But I think it's just a lot more valuable to go bowlers, and you could see that whole point that I made for 10 minutes saying bowlers. And then point 2 obviously is the planning everything out. And then the point 3 is to use your emergencies well, because you can easily lock in points, and more often than not, it's gonna work in your favor if you set a line of like 60 or so for your emergencies. Usually they're gonna outscore the guys that you had playing later in the rounds, but it's just a good way to almost lock in a good score, because if they score a 4 or something like that, say Stoinis gets out first ball, I think he added 8 dot balls with the ball there, maybe a catch, but say he gets like a 10 or a 15, and you're like, yep, no, I'm going to chance it with with Hussain, who his game ended up getting rained out, and also Hardy. Then Hardy would have scored 100 more points than him and stuff like that. So you basically get 2 bites of the cherry with that. So that is basically the reasons why I ended up getting 90th rank overall. And yes, there was a lot of luck in doing so, and I still ended up 550 points off the top of the guys. They just had crazy runs. I mean, look at that end to the season. He had Hardy, Short, McDermott he took, Overton he took, Green he ended up taking as well. But you can just see how volatile the scores are. But yes, using the emergency is huge with how volatile the scores are this year, or in general with SuperCoach BBL. But anyway, that pretty much sums up the tips and tricks video. It wasn't the best. I didn't have as many tips, but I think the 3 main tips can carry you a lot further in BBL next year when we go into BBL 14 SuperCoach. And hopefully we actually have a more competitive comp, because as I said throughout the whole season, it was going to be, I know that now the Perth Scorchers have been knocked out, but we knew that it was going to be Brisbane, Perth, Sydney Sixers in the finals, and then it was just a matter of, is Adelaide going to win enough games, or is Sydney Thunder going to win? I didn't think Stars would be up there, but I knew that the Renegades wouldn't be up there, and Hobart, I was surprised how poor they were, but it's generally just those 3 teams, the Brisbane Heat, the Scorchers, and the Sixers, that are always up there, and it's who makes up the rest. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see how far the Strikers go, if they can get to the final or even win it. But they've not been the best over time generally. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next fantasy team preview in a couple of days time, I guess. But anyway, I'll see you guys then. Bye guys.